Okay, welcome, episode 8. I'm in a really good mood lately. I looked back on like some of my past, the names of like the past episodes, and I'm like, shit, looks like really depressing. So I want to do something, try and be a little bit more upbeat today. So I'm just calling this episode MEW Bulletin. So this is just an update on a bit of a reflection on past episodes and just an update on my life. So I'm going to start with some discoveries that I've made over the past year. I've discovered that the shower is the best place to eat a mango. I discovered that my dad used to turn the power off in the house sometimes just because he liked to pretend that there was a blackout and just like hang out with us. And I also discovered like where my stomach is because like I can't feel my stomach ever unless I have COVID. And then when I have COVID, I can feel my stomach because it hurts. And that bitch is like right up under the rib cage. Like, so yeah, there's some discoveries. In general, I've been just really, really happy. I think I'm honestly the happiest I've ever been in my life right now. It always happens like after like a period of like darkness. It's like, darkness before the dawn. It almost feels like I have to pull back a little bit before I can go forward, like one step back, two step forward. But yeah, it's weird when you're because I spent the last 2 years going through, therapy, going through a lot of trauma from my past and just like on the healing journey. And it's weird that like I've cleared so much stuff now that it just feels like there's so much space, and like I describe it as like it's like the black clouds have like dissipated and like the sun can shine back through. And it's so weird being at a place right now where it's like I'm at a level of happiness that's so foreign to me. I don't even know how to navigate it. So I'm just embracing it and just like, trying to like embrace like new beliefs like that I can be this happy. And that's one of my affirmations every day in the morning is like I wake up and I think to myself, I believe I can be happier today than I was yesterday. And I believe I can be happier tomorrow than I was today. Yeah, something that I do really struggle with still is self-doubt. Yeah, like always just have these voices, like even with the podcast, like I think like the biggest thing is like nobody really wants to like hear what I say. Like why would they give their time to me? And I have to tell myself, one of my affirmations for the podcast is like I believe like my words have value. But there's been like a funny thing happening where just like the days where I've had the most self-doubt, I've received like an email or like a message from someone who's like just said like, hey, like I really appreciate this episode, or I really resonated with this. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. It's like it feels like that's like kind of meant to be on those days. So like a good push forward. Very validating. So thank you. I really appreciate the support I've received so far. It's been mind blowing actually. Yeah. Also reflecting, I'm like kind of trying to figure out what to do with like if I should do a Patreon, like because eventually I would like to make money off the podcast. I'd love to be able to live off this. So I'm thinking like, what do I do? Like obviously like if you get big enough you can have like ads and sponsors and things, but then I was like maybe I should do a Patreon. But then I also have a clothing business that I had, and like the fees just to host a website, I had to stop like having a shop because the fees were like $60 a month. That's just for the website. And so it was just too expensive. So now I'm trying to figure out like how can I combine like my clothing business and my like sustainable fashion with like the podcast. So I was thinking of like doing a Patreon, but then the problem with Patreon is that like you have to wait like 3 months to receive your items. Something about that just doesn't seem right. So I think I'm going to go with like it's kind of like the poor man's Patreon. It's called KO hyphen FI. I think it's meant to sound like coffee, as in like, buy someone a coffee, like for the price of buying someone a coffee, you can like subscribe or whatever. And then I can actually like sell things on there. And what I'm actually going to do soon is have like some episodes and like items and things like ebooks and things that are only available to people who subscribe. And I'll make it like $3 a month or something like affordable. But yeah, that's just like kind of like where I'm thinking right now. Maybe some of the things that are more vulnerable and harder to make public, it's like, some things I just don't want to give away. Do you know what I mean? Like some things I'm like, no, my art is kind of worth something, is the philosophy behind that. Yeah, I've had a couple of people tell me this podcast is almost like an audio diary. And I'm like, true, I can feel that. So maybe the deepest pages of my diary can be, not for everyone, just for the subscribers. And I think I want to call like the community like the soul tribe, as in like SOL. Soul, as it, because I like that, like soul as in like kind of like sun or like source, and that connotation to something greater. So like, yeah, join the soul tribe. I think that's cool. But I think like everyone who joins the soul tribe is an alien. This is for the aliens. Also, something I look back on, I realized that like I kind of a bit self-conscious about my tendency to kind of preach a little bit. And I really don't mean it like that. I think like the reason why I come off like that, if I do, is because like really I feel like that actually comes from the heart more than the ego, because I feel like a lot of my life I just haven't found the way forward. And I think a lot of that now, realizing that I have autism, is like I've just been so different to everyone, that my path has just been so different to everyone, that I've never really had, I guess, the representation of like any other path out there that really has looked similar to mine. And I think as well, like when I was going through depression, the days when I felt really defeated and like hopeless, that hopeless feeling, I think I felt so hopeless because I just like couldn't see the way forward. I just felt like I was tumbling in the dark and I didn't know which way was up, and I just couldn't see the way forward. So a lot of like my reason for like kind of, I guess, preaching in a way is because I'm like, I feel like I found the way. So then I'm kind of screaming like, look, I found the way, like come here. But like one thing that I've learned over time is that like I think every single person's path is so different, and that if someone goes in the complete opposite direction to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong. It's just that their path is different to you. There's a really great quote, I don't know who it's by, but it says, every person has their own religion. I really like that. Every person has their own religion, because you can be a little bit, my path feels a little bit similar to Buddhism, maybe a bit of Hinduism, but it doesn't feel like exactly, and I don't like rules either. So like every person has their own religion. It's like, okay, no two paths I don't think are meant to be exactly the same. I think also like, for me, I think some of my intention has been a little bit selfish. Like I think I've had this feeling of just like, I want to save everyone. And like I see people who are where I was, and I just want to grab them and just be like, come this way. Or like, I know that I'm finding the way towards the light. Like, come on, I'm trying to save everyone, come with me. And I think a lot of that is actually being like, I'm just scared of walking the journey alone. So that's been something for me to realize. I think the biggest gift of depression was, you know, a lot of people fell away, and I kind of got okay with being alone. And that's one of the most positive things that's ever happened in my life, because now I don't have problems setting boundaries and things, because, you know, if I have to like cut you loose, it sounds harsh, but like I'm okay being alone, like, you know. So yeah, so if I don't mean to come off as preachy, I just I'm just sharing my experiences, and if it resonates with you, like take it if it resonates, and leave it if it doesn't. I think every individual has to discern for themselves whether it does or not. I don't think you should ever follow anyone blindly or their advice. I think you should always like think and feel for yourself. Something else, like looking back, I was thinking about the tend to the part of the garden that I can reach, and I came across a story that I feel really encaptures this, because I still think about like these ideas sometimes. And so I wanted to read this story. It's called The Rainmaker, and apparently it's one of Carl Jung's favorite stories, because he created a psychological system called the oh my god, fuck, dyslexia is so bad today. Individualization process. And apparently he loves this story because it mythically captures this system. All right, so it's called The Rainmaker. A Westerner was travelling through China and came to a village where there was a great drought. He asked the elders of the village what they were doing about the drought, and they said that they had called the Rainmaker. The next day, the shriveled old man arrived from a distant province. The villagers took the old man to a hut on the outskirts of the village, where they left him alone for 3 days. Finally, at the end of the 3rd day, the rain began to pour, and it continued all night long. The next day, when everyone was celebrating, the Westerner asked the Rainmaker, "How did you make it rain?" The Rainmaker replied, "I came from a place that was in order, and because the land was in order, the land would do what it needed to do, and so it would rain when it needed to rain. When I came here, the land was out of order, and that disorder affected me. So I came to this hut and I put myself in order. And once I had put myself in order, the land came into order. And once the land came into order, the land did what it needed to do, and it rained." I really like this story because I don't really understand like the psychological system that Carl Jung has created. I hope to learn about that. But for me, it's like this idea that always comes back to, it's just like the answers are not out there, like they're inside, I feel. And like that, for me, that a massive like lesson over the past few years has been stop chasing things out there, just like work on setting yourself in order. I think there's another really great quote. It's probably one of my favorite quotes of all time by Marianne Williamson. And she said, ego says, once everything falls into place, I'll feel peace. Spirit says, find your peace and then everything will fall into place. So that's the idea that I'm entertaining at the moment. Find peace and happiness where you are. Gratitude helps me with that. And then things will like sort themselves out. So yeah, that's all for today. I've also found my sign off, I've decided, which is just the sign off that I like, kind of the motto that I've been using for like my business and everything that I've done for the past few years. And that is, I am you, and this is the journey of setting yourself free.